feel like if you enter this industry not knowing whether you are the ideal standard of beauty, like hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my bedroom. Whoa. I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience as a POC actress in the industry and how it's been like for me in the past 6 years in regards to a topic that might not be as comfortable but needs to be talked about: race. It's funny because might be stupid, but not to me. What prompted me to actually film this video was a lot of things, but the last detail, the straw that broke the camel's back that pushed me into doing this today was I did this audition recently for this part I really wanted. I didn't get, and recently I saw the cast list and the part that I auditioned for went to a Asian girl again. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences with race and colorism and everything in the industry. So as you guys know, since I've made 2 other videos about it already, I got into USC in their film school recently, and I already committed as a screenwriting major. So for my portfolio, my application, there were 2 applications, one for the Common App and stuff, and another one that was your creative portfolio. Like, I wrote a gazillion scripts and stories and essays for that. One of the essays I wrote for them was under the prompt, what was, you know, one of your greatest challenges or personal setbacks that you faced and how have you overcome it? And I wanted to read that essay out loud today because it's relevant to this video. I titled it A Mourning Period. Mourning as in like, not as in, it's morning. Good morning. Not like that. A mourning as in like sad. Mourning period. Everyone on the poster is white. The parents, the children, and of course, the main character. For a second, my heart grows heavy. For a second, my throat tightens, but in the next moment, I let out a deep breath and extinguish the fire. I close my computer and walk away from my desk. Despite making it through callbacks, the moment I arrived at the producer session to read for the main character, I immediately knew that I wouldn't get the part by the polite, dissatisfied smile that the writers shot at me as I walked through the door. Yet after the white main character was cast, I was still called in to read for her biological sister and cousin and the rest of her family, just so casting could say that they were inclusive in their auditioning process. Now I can only mourn the precious hours that were lost. Each audition meant a 4-hour drive to and back from Los Angeles. 1 hour each time in the waiting room, all those hours that Dad took off work to take me to Los Angeles for those meetings with casting. I dig my nails into my palm thinking about the time and energy he lost because we both thought I had a chance. If the producers really love you, my acting coach explained, they'll rewrite the part for you. I've heard that so many times already from other people too, but after I mentioned that I sometimes feel like my race prevents me from getting certain parts, my acting coach tried to comfort me by telling me an inspiring story about how her white daughter booked a role originally written for an Asian character because of her stellar acting skills. And for some reason at the time, her story gave me so much hope. The days leading up to the producer session, I was haunted by my doubts. Why would the main character and her family for such a huge network be completely Asian? The only time that would ever happen would be if their Asianness is built into the plot. Something like Fresh Off the Boat or Crazy Rich Asians, something like that. And this project was not like that. It was just like a regular popular network show about this family. And it wasn't like an Asian family or anything. It was just this family. But whenever these thoughts surfaced, I was taught to push the negativity away. I couldn't let these questions chip away at my confidence and hinder my performance. Yet the phrase BIPOC actors encouraged to audition always seemed to be paired with a character description of Emily, blonde hair, blue-eyed. Fun fact, that's true. I auditioned for this thing in the summer and it was Emily, blonde hair, blue-eyed. And I put all my effort into it, didn't get a call back, kind of saw it coming. Yeah, the audition did say at the top, all actors of color encouraged to audition, as they always do. Yet I always put in the hours, I always audition through coaches, and agents, I have been conditioned for years to believe that if I was talented enough, I could change the writers' minds. For years, I believed this fallacy that if I was incapable of convincing them to change the race of the character they had already decided on, then I was the one who lacked the talent and capability to do so. The next part I'm not going to read because I talk about some projects that I've worked on before, but the main idea of the next paragraph is just that I've met some Asian American writers who are really resilient and fought to get their stories told. And in this moment, this is the final paragraph, and in this moment when I chastise myself for letting hope distort my perception of reality, I push myself to follow in the footsteps of those writers. Just as they didn't let the hurt of injustice prevent them from getting their voices heard, I shall do the same. I must acknowledge that I have a duty as an Asian American writer to shed light on stories about people of color that aren't deemed important, interesting, or popular enough by networks to tell. I can no longer idly sit and hope for other writers to write a story that aligns with mine. I must be my own storyteller. And that's the end of the essay. There are a few parts in this essay that I do want to talk about. The first one is the inclusive thing, that phrase they include in every audition. This is one of my pet peeves. Some things that bothers me about the auditioning process is, as a POC person, I just said POC person of color person. Ignore that. A lot of networks, they do this thing where they put a big phrase highlighted at the top, like all people of color, all BIPOC actors encouraged to audition for, you know, the part. And it's just been frustrating because I did believe that at first, like everyone has a chance, but in the end, when I started seeing like who actually got the part, it's like someone white. And that phrase just kind of bothers me because it feels like they just put it there just so they can be like, the auditioning process was very inclusive. And that's good for them. I know they called me into audition at least, but I know we kind of have this, I had this idea of who would be getting that part. Especially when their name is like Sally Smith. Something just, you know, you just kind of get the idea. As actors, we're just taught to just audition and move on, forget about it. And I've gotten better at that. But I must say, like when I was growing up as a young girl in the industry, it did hurt to see this happen again and again. This pattern of, I didn't get it, this Asian girl got it. I didn't get it, this white girl got it. Again and again and again. It kind of felt like this message was being resaid to me again and again and again, because inherently we all kind of have this innate thought, this kind of subconscious idea that whoever ends up on screen or on TV, they deserve to be there. Not only because they're talented, but because they look like they belong there. To have this happen again and again when I was so young, it kind of made me feel like, no, I don't belong there. That Asian girl does, the white girl does. I've gotten better at facing rejection now that I'm older, but I feel like as a child actor, it does hurt and it does sting, and it's something you have to like overcome as like a POC actor. Another thing I want to talk about is the thing my acting coach said, if the producers really love you, they'll write the part for you. And she did like her little story of how her daughter, her white daughter, got this part for this Asian character that they rewrote for her. They rewrote the character so the character was supposed to be Asian. They wrote it to be white because they liked her so much. They loved her acting, a la Scarlett Johansson style. Oh my god. I love my teacher and everything, but it's just, that story doesn't go, it's not a two-way street, it's a one-way street. I can see that happening for a white actor, like, oh, I love you so much, let me rewrite this Asian, let me rewrite this ethnic character for you because you're just so great, I love your acting skills. I don't see that happening for me. And this whole video, I just want to reiterate that this whole video is just my experience over the years. People can come and tell me, no, Nina, I've had different experiences, and that's good. I'm pretty sure we've all had a different experience as actors in the industry and as people of color in the industry, but this is just mine. I don't see that happening for me personally. I don't see it happening when I see a character description of Emily, blonde hair, blue-eyed, and them rewriting the part for me. Imagine being Asian, imagine being me, being Chinese, and like, I don't know, imagine I was alive. Maybe I was. Imagine I was Miley Cyrus's age and we both auditioned for Hannah Montana. When I got the script and I see the name Hannah Montana, do I think to myself, or Miley Stewart, do I think to myself, I look like a Miley Stewart? Like, does that Do you get it? I know the character can be rewritten, but I just don't see it happening for me, especially for a main character for a big network like that. My problem with this whole someone Asian booked it or someone white booked it, this pattern has been like there for the past 6 years. So it's gotten to a point where like I didn't want to acknowledge it, but it's there, you know, you have to acknowledge it. I think other people have noticed this too, this like colorism kind of thing. As I've seen people do TikToks where it's like, I saw this one TikTok where this girl was reading this book and she was like, the character description was like, black girl with dark skin, and then like, who gets cast? Zendaya, and they're just like, I'm not watching this.
Day at the crust. I'm out. You think I'm not watching this! Look!
Also, I'm not coming for Zendaya, love her, but I think there definitely is an advantage to being like half white. Especially when you get those characters that are like Ali Smith. There's no way my last name could be Smith unless I was adopted. But maybe if you're like Asian, maybe your dad was Smith. You could have that advantage. It's gotten to a point where I just, over the years, when I get an audition and it says we want someone East Asian or we want someone Asian for this part, I feel a lot more confident going in. I'm not saying this just to be like, look, this is what's happened to me. I'm just kind of saying like, that's just where I'm at now. Like I can't really control it. That's just kind of the mentality that I've developed, and I don't want to, but that's just what it is. Like when I see an audition that says we want someone Asian, we're looking for an Asian actress, I just feel a lot more confident going into that than going to an audition for Ashley Stellman. And it's also a kind of thing where I realized that all the parts that I've booked so far was that, like, oh, it's kind of like a we're looking for someone Asian kind of thing. And for the brat stuff that I did, it wasn't exactly that, but I think they kind of had me in mind for those parts. I've also kind of reached a point where sometimes I can look at a script and I can be like, a lot of times this doesn't happen, where I look at a script and I just go like, I'm not getting it. Like, obviously. I try not to have that mindset because it's bad to go into every audition being like, I'm obviously not getting this, I'm just gonna get it over with. I don't want to have that mindset. Sometimes though, I will be honest, sometimes I do see auditions, you know, for Emily, blonde hair, blue eye, and I'm like, I'm not getting this. Or yeah, or sometimes I can picture like, I can picture this is the kind of person they want for that part, and that's not me. So that last audition that I did that prompted this whole video where it went to someone Asian again. Hello. I'm actually in the middle of editing this video right now, but I got up to this point and I realized something that I forgot to say, but I have to include this in the video. I remember after I got that audition, I called my friend. Of course I didn't tell her what it was for and everything, but I was talking about this one audition and I was like, I just know it's going to someone Asian. And it's just so funny because I was talking to her about it before, and then afterwards I was like, yeah, I went to someone in Asian. I was looking at the script that day and I was kind of like, oh, this isn't for me. I think this is gonna go to someone else who is like this. It was kind of sad. I did have like a little breakdown because I liked it a lot, that audition, but I kind of knew. I would like to acknowledge that race is not the only thing that's affecting all this. I think it would be foolish to say that race is all that dictates whether you get an audition or not, because it definitely isn't. But I also think it would be foolish to say that race doesn't play a part at all. Definitely plays a part. I have to admit though, there are other factors as to why I haven't like done any like acting jobs over the years, because I've been in school. I put like mainly the school thing because I put 100% of my effort into school over the past couple years. I'm really happy with where I'm at, and now I'm going to USC and I'm studying screenwriting and I get to be my dream self, be a screenwriter and everything. So I'm really happy with that. But that is like a big reason why I haven't, because you know, to do really well, be successful in the acting industry, you have to be like practicing your craft all the time and you have to be like putting all your effort into it. I wasn't able to do that for the past 4 years, and that's a really big factor as well. So that's why the only thing I've like booked for like a long time was around like last year, 2 years ago. I got this part in Raya and the Last Dragon, but you guys are like, you weren't in that. Yeah, they actually wrote me out for creative. It was like a creative decision. They wanted to write me out, so I'm actually not in it. But I did get the audition for that part. Yeah, that's like the only thing I've gotten for like a while. So there is also that. Another factor why I also haven't been getting a lot of auditions over the years is also because I just haven't been putting that much time into acting. I've been putting more time into, I already said school, but like screenwriting and everything. Like I took that screenwriting class over the summer instead of taking an acting class over the summer. That's also a big factor that contributed to like my not getting jobs and stuff. And I completely acknowledge that. So I want to talk a little bit about screenwriting and the importance of having more people of color screenwriters. I know a lot of writers in the industry are white, and I feel like as a writer myself and as writers in general, it's harder to write, not harder, but like when you write for a character, you are connected to that character. You see yourself a little bit in the character that you're writing for. And a lot of times the writer who writes this character, they make the character, like the main character at least, their own race. That happens a lot, and I'm gonna be honest to say, like me as a writer, when I write, I think a lot of my characters are gonna be Asian American and Chinese American and everything, because I relate to that and I can see myself in them. That's just normal, you know? White writers write for white characters. And when that happens, there are like less parts for POC characters or well-written POC characters. I'm not saying white writers can't write good POC characters. I'm just saying if they do end up writing good POC characters, they need the help of other POC people to be able to write like a well-rounded character that's a person of color, because they don't have that experience themselves. Otherwise, you kind of end up with that one scene from Ginny and Georgia.
You are closer to white than I'll ever be.
Together, we make a whole white person.
Your favorite food is cheeseburgers, and I know more Mandarin than you do. You're barely even Asian.
Sorry, I'm not Chinese enough for you. But I've never seen you pound back jerk chicken. Last time I checked, Brody twerks better than you.
That everyone is making fun of on the internet right now. Don't come for me. I know everyone was like kind of bullying that scene from Ginny and Georgia. I haven't watched the show. I bet it's amazing, but everyone was kind of like talking about that one scene, or it was all over TikTok and people were like, what was this scene or something. But yeah, the dialogue's a little weird because I just...
Together, we make a whole white person.
I don't think we would say that in real life.
But I've never seen you pound back jerk chicken.
Anyway, these writers who, when these writers who write for POC characters, and these white writers who write for POC characters, when that gets to the internet or that gets critiqued and reviewed and everyone comes at them with a knife and it's like, this was so not it or something, kind of scares more writers away from writing for these like POC characters, because they don't want to end up like those writers who wrote something and they didn't know that it was going to end up being bad like this, and then the internet blows it up. It makes it scarier for them to write about more POC characters like this, or like when people point stuff out like that was racist, or like this POC character you wrote was racist and you're a white writer, like that kind of scares white writers away too about like writing for POC characters. But I'm here to say that it can go well, but it's best to consult other POCs, you know, so you can get their experience. I feel like a lot of times these people of color characters can go wrong when people make the character too much about their race or too little about their race, where you have to have like a good balance, you know, because race, it's not everything that you are, but it is a big factor that impacts how this person grew up, what kind of environment, and what problems they deal with. But that shouldn't be their entire character. So my solution to this whole thing, this whole situation, is just to have more POC writers, screenwriters, to have more representation on screen so that other writers don't have to be like scared and kind of don't know what they're doing and just like write these POC characters is kind of like, That's also a really big reason why I wanted to go into screenwriting and why I want to study screenwriting, and really happy that I'll be able to do that in 3 months when I go to college. Yay! And I would just like to conclude, not everyone has had the same experience as me. Maybe other people have not had any of this happen to them. This is just my kind of feeling, like how I feel, and the kind of mentality I've sort of developed, sort of try not to develop over the years. Also, I would just like to mention, please don't come for like the actors of it all. I feel like people have a really hard time separating, when they're looking at a work, separating what was the writers, like what was the writers doing, what what was the actors doing and like what was the directors is doing, you know? People kind of look at something and go like, put it all on the actors because they're the face they connect it to. But there are certain shows where you can see, or certain like projects where you can see like the actors are really good, but the writing is a little special. And that makes me feel really bad for the actors on those, but please don't come for the actors all the time. If it really is their acting, then yeah, but it's important to note that it's not all the actors' fault. It's there's a lot of people behind the scenes orchestrating it all. Anyway, this is all just my experience again. So yeah, I wanted to be very honest today, just say everything that I've been feeling and everything that's happened, and that's all. Just wanted to let this be known.